Hello everybody, welcome to the channel. Sorry for that little mix-up in the beginning there, but if you're watching this later on YouTube, then nothing happened. Literally, nothing. Nothing to worry about. Definitely didn't mess up the entire stream, so don't worry. But we're here with Michelle. Michelle, you've been a long-time player on the channel since the beginning. Descent to Avernus, you've been on plenty of other episodes of Supernatural 20 and one-shots, so welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It is such such an honor and always a great time to be here. And I'm really excited to help kind of hype up Esper's content. This is a really cool book coming out, you guys. Check it out if you can.
Yeah, and we'll talk all about it like we just did. I definitely had the sound off before if anyone was wondering what was going on. Obviously professional streamer here. I don't make any mistakes anymore, but this one, we'll let it slide, I think, right? Look at that. Welcome everyone in the YouTube chat. Sorry for that, but we're going to be starting with going over our first impressions of what this book is. I've talked about Esper's Emporium of Esoterica, which I have here. It's his first Kickstarter. Esper's a friend of the channel. He's been on the channel a couple times now to chat and play some games. We've been in communication, and Michelle and I were both asked to play in a live stream game on his channel this Saturday at 4 o'clock Eastern. It's going to be awesome. I'm really excited for it. Actually, one thing I didn't talk about in the first take here was the cast. Obviously, we're there, but I mean, we're nobodies compared to the rest of the cast. The cast has like AJ Pickett, How to RPG, Fred from How to RPG, and Wally DM. So we are. I feel honored to be part of this group. I don't know about you, Michelle, but you might be too good for all of us.
I was definitely very intimidated when I saw the list of names initially, but then we had kind of like our playthrough where we tested things out, tested the waters, and wow, all these guys are really cool. And yeah, I'm very excited to see how the session goes.
Yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be a lot of fun. And let's talk a little bit about what Monstrous Heroes actually is, because when I first saw the book, I was really excited because it's mostly player content. And while the Emporium did have player content, it had the new Paragon class, it had spells, it had magic items, it had so much in it. But that was really more, I think, of a DM's book. I mean, it could be used by players, it could be used by everybody. That's actually probably why it was so good, is that it had so little bit of everything for anyone, right? But the DM side of it was very robust. It had a whole bestiary, but this book is really geared towards players and playing monster races, monster classes, I should say. What were your first impressions of the book?
Well, I was very, very excited actually, because up until now in my short career in D&D, and by the way, thank you again for introducing me to this game, Bob. Um, so in my short career with D&D so far, I've always played like the good guys trying to save the day, and we're like Robin Hood and his merry like gang just out there trying to like do good things. And now, for the first time, we get to, play like neutral or evil characters, characters who are literally monsters, which I've never really had the opportunity to do before. So this is very exciting.
Yeah, I'm usually used to playing the evil DM.
Yeah.
But not so much the evil character. But yeah, I just so basically let's describe this book. This book's basically a player's handbook, kind of, for playing a monster class, and it's really different than like playing a monster race in regular D&D 5e, where you just kind of pick your race and you get a couple of racial abilities, and still you're really like a wizard, a fighter, or whatever your normal classes would be. This is a built-in system for playing a monster that is also your class. So the ones that are in the preview guide, which are very fleshed out, as we've learned, very fleshed out, are the Minotaur, the Arachneer, the Ogre, the Vampire, and am I missing one? Or that was 4, right? It was 4?
I think that was it, yeah.
Although I did see the Kickstarter is actually at its first or one of the higher stretch goals, and I think the Hag is now going to be introduced. So,
ooh,
yeah,
very nice.
Yeah,
and yay, Esper.
Yeah, and it's great to see more of these goals, because I'd love to see more in the book. But you also check out the entire preview document that we are talking about today in the description. It's already there. So if you want to check out the Kickstarter, there's a preview on that page, and you can download it. It's got levels like 1 through 9 or 10 for all the classes, and some of them even more, I think, or at least it lists out their progression charts. And then it has all the extra rules after it. And there are a lot of rules. It's like a 50-page document to begin with. So you can tell that even though it is a preview document, it is pretty robust. And you can, honestly, like we're doing, you could use it right away in your games to test it out.
A lot of quality content.
Yeah, artwork and everything. Let's switch this over to the other view so we can take a look at the actual. Here we go, at the actual art here. So I've got the Monstrous Heroes. This is the cover. You can see got the Minotaur, the vampire, the Arachneer, which is, like a spider race. And there's basically what this is. It's in beta test, so he's even accepting some feedback, I think. But I'm not sure how if he's doing that. I think this is also part of the play test he was saying. So basically, we're going to be trying out some things. And even in our practice session that we did, which was just kind of like feeling out the rules a bit, we felt pretty good with everything, right? Did you have any things that you felt were funky, or everything kind of seemed smooth on my end? But
Yeah, everything seemed pretty good to me. I guess one thing I noticed was that I did almost die, but that might also be because, my play style, I just kind of walked right into the middle of like 8 mobs. So that might have been on me. Yeah.
yeah, well, like I said, we're playing this Saturday, which is March 11th at 4 p.m. Eastern. So it's going to be on Esper the Bard's channel. I'll post another link when we get around there in my Discord and YouTube, so that you can join us and watch the game. Let's talk about our characters. Michelle, what did you decide to go with?
All right. Well, what a coincidentally perfect page you are on, because I decided to go with the Minotaur. My Minotaur is a lady. And do you want me to go into the whole backstory now? I don't know if I cut you off.
No, let's do it.
All right, cool. So my Minotaur is a lady. Her name it's spelled the same way as Dorothy, but she pronounces it Dorothy. And Dorothy, the Minotaur, actually started life as just a regular dairy cow. In Oklahoma, actually. And if any of you have seen the 1996 movie called Twister, you may remember a specific iconic scene where they're looking at like a giant, I think it was like an F3 tornado, and then a cow flies by. And they're like, we got cows.
I saw that movie in the theaters, Michelle. That's how much I love that movie. That Helen Hunt.
Yep, there you go. And so basically, Dorothy was that cow. And prior to that moment, she was just a regular dairy cow, living life on the farm. Like the field was her whole world. And she was kind of used to this existence that was filled with pain and suffering, right, at the hands of humans. Every year she would have a child. That child would be taken away from her. Like the humans would take her milk endlessly, and she just gave and gave and gave. And so Dorothy had all this pain and suffering going on. But then one day, a giant cone of wind, because like cows don't know what tornadoes are, right? So this giant cone of wind appears, and it sucks her up into the sky. And as she's flying around like a bird, suddenly she hears like crackles and she sees lightning in the air. And she feels some sort of mystical energy flow through her body. And in this dramatic, epic event, like she feels something is changing, something is shifting. But then before she realizes what's happening, she loses consciousness. And when she comes to again, the storm is over. She's laid on the ground. Something feels different. So she looks down at herself and she realizes that she has woken up somehow in the form of a human. right? From what she could see, because like you can't see your own face, so she doesn't know she.
She saw
So
hands, she saw legs. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and so she goes, "What? I have these fleshy appendages, the fleshy nubs and paws of my humans who caused me all of this pain, and now in this ironic twist of fate, I have the power of man to myself, and I can use this power to wreak havoc and seek vengeance for myself and all of the other cows who have suffered."
Oh man.
So that's Durothy's thing. Like she just hates humans and she just out to get us. Like she just wants to like purge the earth of all humans.
That's so I remember you were talking about your character's like backstory. I didn't realize that that's actually you got that in depth with it.
Oh,
It's like you said Twister, but it's like Wizard of Oz, Twister, and like just some nasty monster fantasy creature all combined in one.
yeah, yeah. I sometimes I like to let my imagination kind of run away. And so yeah, this was one of those moments where I was like, yes, perfect. If I
Who
get to
would do
play a
that?
monster for the first time ever, let's come up with a pretty legit backstory.
Yeah. No, I like it. I love it a lot, and I didn't go that depth in depth with with mine, but it's I had a good time like creating my character too. Like it was fun to
Mm,
make. So let's talk about like what your character can do. What like I don't
sure.
want to give away too many things because like they're gonna see these mechanics play out in the game we're gonna join. But generally speaking, what does the Minotaur do?
Sure, yeah. So I guess one thing that I'm very excited about in terms of the Minotaur features is something called the charge. So you think of like a charging bull.
Hmm.
And basically like you can do like this action where if you are at least 10 feet away from an enemy, you can just close that gap really quickly. And then instead of like a regular unarmed strike, like a slap or something, the Minotaur has a feature, an attack called gore. So you're goring them with your horns. And so you can charge from 10 feet away and then gore your enemy. And then there's also a chance to knock them prone.
Hmm.
And so I'm very excited to try and knock people on their butt, on their butts. I don't know what level of inappropriate language you are comfortable with. So I'm just gonna say butt. I'm excited to knock people on their butts.
What's wrong with rump?
Ah, yes.
That's the word
This
you were
let's
talking about, right?
of course.
Gotcha.
Actually, I was thinking of tuchus, but
Oh, well,
rump.
let's not say that ever again.
I apologize. Don't look at me. But yeah, I'm really excited for charging and goring people and potentially knocking them over. Let's see. And then I chose a, what is it called? The myth. Yes, my level 3 Minotaur myth that I chose.
Hmm.
Um, because like there are different ways to specialize your Minotaur,
Yeah,
which
would you say these are basically like the way you can make a your character have like a subclass?
right.
That's kind of what it
Yes.
feels like, right?
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Words. Um, so there are like it's very I really enjoyed seeing the different Minotaur myths that Esper made because they are all like very different and like they're all so cool. So just like a really brief TLDR. He has one called the Juggernaut, which is basically like the ultimate like barbarian berserker type. There's another one called the Horned Shaman. And so you can like use cast spells and be like a Minotaur shaman, which I think is really like a fascinating concept.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
ultimately, the one that I went with is called the Labyrinth Hunter.
Ooh.
And this one, I just love the idea because here you're like this hunter character who can use traps and so I love the idea of a minotaur. It's almost like sinister in a way, a minotaur creeping around and setting traps to catch their prey. And I imagine that Durothy would use her traps to catch humans and sneak around in the shadows.
That's the one thing I'm really excited to see because in our little quick play test, we
Mm.
didn't throw the trap, right?
Yeah, yeah, I didn't get an opportunity to because, like I said earlier, I just charged straight into the middle of the enemies.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
it's not your fault. We were playing just something it was a basic scenario to just get us familiar with the new rules and everything. So it wasn't like there was a grand story where, we're kind of going through a dungeon. I feel like we'll have more opportunities to use those like situational abilities, in a real game. So,
yeah,
yeah. Very
yeah,
excited to
yeah,
see it because I didn't get that's the one real ability I didn't get to see, so I'm excited.
yeah, for sure. I'm excited to test it out. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, and I think if you were to overall like try to compare it to D&D, what do you think I know you said all the subclasses do have a difference, right? The shaman can cast spells, the juggernaut's more of like a barbarian fighter, and the
Mhm.
minotaur feels more like ranger roguish than perhaps just a true barbarian. But how do you feel about the minotaur overall? What are your thoughts?
Overall, I really love it. It feels very flexible, but then it has some of that familiar, I guess, for those of you who have seen Supernatural 20, you'll know that I play Bear, the Barbarian. And so some aspects of the Minotaur feel familiar in the sense that it's like a barbarian, but with a twist.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I dig it. I love the Minotaur.
Nice. Yeah, and I agree with you. Like there's three really distinct ways to play it, and that's what you need in a book like this because you don't want it to feel like every monstrous class is basically the same. Like I'm just scrolling through here and like there are just so many rules like because it's a full class on its own in addition to the monstrous race abilities. So it really is feels like a completely different thing than anything I've ever played in 5e thus far. So,
Yeah, it's so impressive to look at how much work Esper put into this, like literally combining a race and a class for every single one of these characters.
yeah. Yeah, you can see everybody. I'm scrolling, and there's pages and pages of rules. It doesn't feel like you're playing something like that you've done before. It is completely different, and I think once the whole thing is done, it's going to have 20th level. It's going to go all the way to that for many more of these monstrous classes. So, good, Michelle. I'm excited. Really good to see. Can't wait to see Durathi in combat.
Rothy.
Durathi.
Yes.
All right,
Yes, thank you. Oh my
you
gosh, I
wanna
love your character. Tell us about your character.
Yeah, you want to dive into me? Okay, let's jump to where's the page I want to go to? Here it is. Well, everybody, I'm playing the vampire because it's no surprise to anybody that's seen my channel. I've only played two characters on it, and one was a human, the other was Jay the paladin, who was a blob basically. But even Jay aspired to be as human as possible. I love humans. I think that's really the gist of it for me. I really enjoy playing a human. I have played other races, totally. I'm not like only playing humans, but I just love the human aspect of the game, and it's fun to play someone who usually has less features and abilities. Try to like just like if we were in a scenario, what would I do? It's kind of cool. But the vampire is probably the closest you can get to human because you can be a human who then turned into a vampire. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna go vampire. So I'm looking human. I don't probably look like this. This is probably not like me. And the reason why it doesn't look like me is because my character, whose name is Emmett Grady the Third, he's he looks like a 10-year-old boy. He was turned when he was very young. He was my inspiration for this was obviously Claudia from Interview with a Vampire, one of my favorite vampire movies. And I think that dynamic of like being trapped, frozen in time, has a lot of drama that can add to it. I think about the complexity of like his emotions as he's going through life, stuck as a 10-year-old, right? And so I was wondering how it would actually play out, and I feel like it played out perfectly. I almost feel like I've got two personalities, but yeah, so Emmett, the backstory I had was basically he ran away from home when he was 10. His parents were super wealthy. He's a noble background. And then he got in he ran away and got in with a gang, the street gang. And one day they messed with the wrong person, or should I say, vampire in the alleyway. And the vampire killed all of the gang except for Emmett, and then turned Emmett and made him his, I guess his vampire spawn or whatever it would be. His thrall, actually, maybe even his best because that ties into the abilities that I have. So I went with, like we said, there's plenty of different ways to make your vampire. In fact, the vampire here has four different, I guess we call them subclass options. They're called bloodlines for the vampire. But I want to talk about the vampire racial traits first, because I think when I was looking through this book, I was like, okay, you get all your racial stuff, all your class stuff, and it's all mixed in one. The vampire racial traits like never ended. It's insane. Like you basically you have so many like rules on you, and that's in a way a good thing because it's like vampires are like depending on the lore. I know Twilight's maybe an exception, but so many vampire stories have so many like little bits and nuggets of lore that like you wonder, is this part of vampire lore? Is this an official vampire thing? And like even here it says I have natural weapons. I have a claw. I have a bite. I can grab someone with my claw and then pull them in. I can't do the bite unless I've pulled them close to me or they are allowing me to do it. I have to carry around a little coffin with me because that's my resting place. Obviously, sunlight is going to kill me. It's going to do tons of damage, like 20 HP a turn for every turn I'm in the sunlight. I have extreme dark vision. I see 120 feet. I'm breathless. I don't need to breathe or drink or eat but I have all these other weaknesses. One of the other cool ones is that I can't even go into somebody's home unless they invite me in, which I love from like Dracula. So I was drawn in by this race because of all these rules because they're very flavorful. They feel like a vampire, whereas you kind of look up a stat block for a vampire in the 5e manual, and it's really just kind of a couple of things. I really like this, and it makes it feel like there's going to be moments where I might not be able to do something you all want to do because we have to go into the sun or because I need to sleep and I don't have my coffin with me. Like it's gonna be a problem. So
Yeah.
I like when those kind of problems are manifested. Let's see here. In terms of the class features, though, what I did is I went with a bloodline called the Dark Beguiler. So what I'm going to be playing is I'm going to be playing a character who uses their charm, their like hypnotic gaze to lure victims in. There were three other ones that it all seemed really cool. There's the vampire warrior, who is basically like a fighter using weapons and all these cool like blood abilities with your weapon. There's the Strigoi, which is like a feral, I guess you would say barbarian type, but it's like in tune with nature and like you could transform into creatures like, wolves and bats and things like that later in the game. And then there was the, now I'm forgetting the name of it, but it's the wizard type of vampire, the Nocturne, who has like spells and you get a spell book and it's much more like wizard type. But I decided to go with the Dark Beguiler because I feel like as a small 10-year-old boy, Emmett would be very good at looking like he's pretty innocent. You know what I mean? Just
Mm.
like luring people in and be like, I need help, come rescue me. And then that's when my master vampire would step in and we'd feast, something like that.
That's so creepy.
Yeah. And now he's 87 years old, actually. So he's long since left his master and he's on his own and he's trying to do the same thing. And he met up with this group of monsters and he's ready to go and be the decoy, be the bait, I should say, be the bait. So
Hmm.
I guess in terms of like rules, the one that I like the most is this bind thrall. So once you like get somebody in your hypnotic pattern, and I think you saw this firsthand, they start to like you and then they start to follow you. So once you get somebody in your gaze, you can try to bind them to you and you basically create yourself a servant. They kind of do whatever you want. They won't kill themselves or do anything to harm themselves, which I wouldn't want anyway, right? Why would I want my thrall to do that? But they'll do stuff for me. I could feed on them. I can they can obey my commands, and it's really like having that extra servant, like an NPC with me. And I think right, you'd agree. Torn, he's my
Oh
servant.
yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah. He would do anything for you.
I have an orc servant named Torn, or Turan. I don't remember what his name was, but I call him Torn, and he is my servant, and you'll see him on Saturday. So
Oh, is Esper letting you keep him for Saturday?
I think so. I think that was the gist of it. If I'm wrong, then
Yes.
I'm wrong. Torn will
Oh,
he'll suffer some sort of death, and
I was gonna say he'll live on in our hearts, but or he'll suffer a terrible death, like whatever.
yeah, one way or the other. Real
Mm.
quick though, I guess we should just talk about the rest of the classes. There's the ogre and the arachneer. Now, there's going to be 3 people, like I said, joining us. There's Wally DM, who's going to be playing the arachneer, named Ezor. We've got AJ Pickett and Fred from How To RPG, who are playing the ogres, pair of ogres. So
Yes.
exciting.
And I remember Esper was saying the ogres are going to be interesting because they picked the same subclass, if you will,
Hmm.
but then they ended up with very different stats. And so they'll be playing like the same ish, but also very different at the same time. So I'm excited to see kind of how that ends up working out between the two of them.
Yeah, AJ and Fred are hardcore. They rolled 3d6 down the line for their stats. Meanwhile, I think we all used point buy or something else, right? Standard array or something like that.
Yeah.
And their characters are interesting. That's to say the least. We'll see how it all turns out. I'm actually interested to see what we're gonna do. I don't know.
Yeah, Esper's been very mysterious and enigmatic about what actually is going to happen on Saturday. So we have no idea what this adventure is going to look like. And yeah, I'm excited to see what a group of scoundrels gets up to on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, and I guess that's how it should be, right? We shouldn't know anything. Uh, we should
Yeah.
just have to figure it all out for ourselves. But we're gonna be doing that. Like I said, Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern on Esper the Bard's YouTube channel. It's gonna be a live play using all material from the Monstrous Heroes book. So stay tuned for that. We're going to be posting about it here on the YouTube community chat, my social media. So if you're looking for it on Saturday, please would love to have you join us. And Michelle, I mean, obviously, you're going to be back for Supernatural 20. We're going to be filming our next episode for March later in this month.
Yes. Oh, I'm so excited. I get really pumped up for every Supernatural 20 episode. Like we're just such a great group and we're goofy and weird and you are so good at making things like
Ooh, I love the
horrifying in
spooky.
in the way that only Bob can. So I think that's the 25th. I don't know if that's going to be a live stream or we're recording for
We'll
later.
record. Yeah, we're going to record it. We'll put it. We'll post it as a live premiere. It worked well last time,
Gotcha.
so yeah, exciting stuff here on the channel. So thanks for watching with us, and like I said, Saturday, switch on over to Esper's channel.
Yeah, we'll see you there.
All right, so we're gonna sign off. This is a little short chat. Just wanted to give everybody heads up to what's going on and showcase this cool PDF. Like I said, links are in the description down below. Until next time, though, we'll see you on the tabletop. Have a good night.
Bye.